So taking the dash bar out, you're able to kind of slide the front of the cage in a little bit, enough to drop it down and get it forward. And that allows you to get to all of the places that normally you can't get to. Using the ratchet strap, it allowed me to pull the front bars together enough to allow for kind of the cage to just become a little bit narrower, and I was able to kind of, I don't know, use my foot and stomp it into position to be able to get that lower door bar to the inside of the rocker, which allowed the cage to drop down far enough. See, I slid it forward and then down, and then that opened up the space to be able to, you know, to get to here, to weld these, and then also to weld around the back. Coming around to the front, the cage being dropped down gives you enough room to get your welder in here to be able to weld the tops of this stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't put anything on the glass, you know, any kind of like clear protectant or whatever. I needed, the best thing would be to remove the windshield. I don't want to do that. So, you know, I kind of did wreck the glass a little bit, but it is just on the top section here, and I'll probably end up having a windshield banner go across the top, so you won't see that. Now that I got everything, you know, I was able to pull everything forward, drop it down, weld all the tops to everything. I used that ratchet strap to pull the fronts together. It kind of stayed a little bit in, but this dash bar is what is going to give us the correct width. So it's just a matter of getting this dash bar back into position. I have a porta power, so it would be really easy for me to just stick it in there and like push it out and then slide this into position. But I'm gonna try to stick this in there without getting my porta power, just because I figured none of you guys have a porta power. So the porta power would probably be the easy way. This might not be that bad, I don't know, but regardless. This is easy. No need for porta power, and that was super easy. Obviously, you need to now make sure that the front of the cage is going to be square in the car. Like, you know, you can just check the distance from the A-pillar on this side and the A-pillar on that side. I can already see right now that that side's closer, but regardless, first what I'm gonna do is get the rear where it's gotta go, put a tack on it, and then put the front and put it where it's gotta go, and then get a tack on that. Left to right's good. I can probably tack these and move over. Actually, before I tack those, I'm just gonna check the rear. Just pop the rear bar in, make sure that that is correct, which it really should be. I don't see why there's any reason why it won't be, but I know right now our width is good. I'm looking where the bottom, the squareness of it, I mean, not that it can really get racked too much, but you know, the bottom of the hoop is in the same spot on floor plates, and then it's, you know, it's touching up here. So awesome, this is fantastic. So right now I've kind of got this put into place. There's a tiny bit of a gap on the bottom, and there's a tiny little gap, you can't really see, maybe there. So what I'm gonna do, I've kind of like got this as best I could into position with using a hammer and, like, you know, kind of getting it as close to being locked in as possible. So what I think is, although I haven't had to touch any of the notches on this cage, this is the first time I think what I'm gonna do is go in and open these up a little bit. Not really open them up, more so just like, just kind of take a little bit of the edge off on here, because I think that right here is where it's stopping it from being able to actually set into place. So I'm just going to take a little flap disc and just kind of hit this real quick here, and I think that will allow it to get put right into position where it needs to be. So what I just did is I faced this this angle just a little bit. I noticed that it was hitting just a little bit at the top more than at the bottom. So the bottom was open just a touch, and the top like wanted to go in, but it couldn't, because it's just the angle that I have the main hoop at must be off just a little bit or something. But either way, all I had to do is face that a little bit, and then this bar basically just went right into position. As you can see, I have this tacked up here. It's all like the notches are lined up perfectly now. And then this is all ready for welding. So you'll be able to get all around here where it needs to be done, and there's gonna be no problem with getting in there with the welder. Same thing with this side. I had to face that a little bit, and everything is on the money. All right, that just about does it. The cage is fully welded into the car. The front floor plates are put into position, or were put into position, and then welded. The last thing I need to do is just measure and make sure my dash bar is the correct height on both sides so it's level. And then do the floor plate up there, and then trim the intrusion bar for where that needs to go up to the firewall. So it's like just above the toe board where it actually goes in. So these are the passenger side intrusion bars. They come as 2 pieces, and basically what I'm doing is just using this here as kind of like a jig to put this into place and then tack it, which I just did. So, but now this can kind of go in the car, and then this can be trimmed, you know, so it can line up with the toe board where it needs to. These come a little bit long. I don't know if they all come a little bit long, but these are going to definitely need to be cut and trimmed to be able to be welded to the toe board. So these areas on the firewall here are where the plates are going to end up going for the intrusion bars. So there is like a little spot here where it shows where the bottom bar is supposed to kind of go, and then the top bar comes down. So they are going to need to be trimmed, but the plates are going to go right in that region there. And then I think that little tab is going to have to get cut off in order to put the plates in, or put the plate in there. I just cut out these floor plates. They're, I have a CNC plasma cutter, so I was able to make them real nice. But if you don't have a CNC plasma cutter, you can just do it with a cutoff wheel. But yeah, 1/8 inch cold rolled steel, and these are 2.5 by 2.5 square. I'm pretty sure the rules are like 2 inch. They need to be like 2 inch square, but I figured give myself a little bit more room. All right, so with doing these intrusion bars, I'm just gonna measure from the front of the cage to the firewall. Let's see here. It's about 12 3/4. So just a rough measurement there, 12 3/4. There's 1/8 inch for this. I'm just gonna cut it a little bit rough. It's always easy to, it's easier to cut more off than it is to add. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, which, let's see here, like this, can't go over, but I know that from here out is 12 3/4, right? So I'm just gonna like use kind of this. The firewall should be about 90 to this. Again, this is just the first rough cut. So I'm just gonna go tape measure to here and then go 12 3/4, which is there. And then just kind of rough my angle with, have this be 90 and that be 90. So if I cut it there, it technically should be able to swing over there and go right where it needs to. And if I need to trim a little bit more, I can trim a little bit more. No big deal. So with my first cut, let's see how close I am. So that's about perfect, but now remember, my angle's exact, like my angle's mint, like this is exactly where it needs to be. So there's an 1/8 inch here. So all I need to do is take an 1/8 inch off that angle. And then my distance should be perfect. I just need to put this, also weld this onto the firewall. I've had this Harbor Freight belt sander for way longer than I've been in business. And I've been in business here for like, I don't know, 9 years or something like that. This is probably like my most used tool of anything that I have, and it was like $200. But yeah, this thing works great. Mine's super sketchy. The guard's off of it, and the only thing that's really weird about it is you have to reach like behind it to turn it on. But either way, I'm just gonna take off that 1/8 inch on belt sander. Let's see how we did. Oop. Okay. Floor plate. That's nearly perfect. I mean, there is literally a 1/16 of an inch of play. I'm totally fine with that. Sick. I'm going to, so the body here on the RX-7 has like a little recess here, or not recess, but like a bead, or like it kind of comes in towards you. So I'm just gonna align my floor plate up with it, just so it's square. And one thing I'm doing is I marked the middle of where this 2.5 by 2.5 is, and then kind of like put it where it's gonna go. What I did with the bar is I put the bar in, and then I slid it up all the way, as much as you can slide it up, before it hits on the car. There's like the little tabs on RX-7. There's like the little tabs that the dashboard kind of mounts to. I've kind of been using those the whole time for setting the cage, like how far forward the bars need to go, and so on and so forth. So what I'm doing is using the bottom of those and sliding the bar up, so until it just touches it. So what I did then, is I marked the center of this, and then I marked the floor for where this needs to be. Where it is on the firewall, there's like that little factory bead or whatever. So what I'm doing is I'm actually I marked that also. So where this sits, that factory bead is where this mark is. It's just that wide. So what I'm doing is I'm just gonna stick this in the sheet metal brake, and I'm just gonna put just a tiny little bend in it, just so it'll sort of match the contour of the firewall a little bit better. And then that way you don't have like such a big gap to try to like bridge from the plate over to the firewall. So let's see how it works out. And you don't need sheet metal. You don't need a brake to do this. You can just stick it in the vise and tap it with a hammer. So just that tiny little bit is actually going to do a ton when it's in the car. This is what I'm talking about with that horizontal line. This is like where the middle of the tubing is. And then I marked that. That little break that I put in it, just that tiny little bit, is going to allow for this bump. So as you can see, right there is where that's going to go. And then when you look from the top, it's, you know, it's pretty flat, and you only have a little bit of a gap to bridge when you're welding across the top and the bottom. But the sides are like totally flat on both the side and the other side. Oh man, on the money. Exactly where I want it. Oh, that's awesome. So there's a good amount of space on the side in between the door jamb and the cage to be able to get your welder in to weld the top and the bottom. Obviously the inside is pretty easy to get to. And then as far as the floor plate goes, like I said, I put my plate even with this reveal, or this kind of body line that's in the body there. And that kind of put whatever angle it put this at. It's pretty much straightforward. It might be tipped out a little bit, which is good. But there's plenty of space to get in from the backside with your big gun. You can't really see that good, but you know, with a mirror, or if you kind of like look down from the top, you can sort of see what you're doing, and for the most part get a good enough weld to be able to get all the way around your intrusion bars. So my passenger side is done now. Doing this is the driver side anti-intrusion bar. It's going to go from there to there to there. It'll look like that in about 10 minutes. All right, I'm 2 minutes late. Actually just turned. I made that last post at 5:30. It's 5:40, but just turned to 5:43. So not bad. 12 minutes, or 12 and a half minutes to fully weld an anti-intrusion bar. It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty much all finished up painting the inside of the car. Cage came out great. The inside of the car came out great. Really happy with it. Next, I can put the engine and transmission in and get to wiring. And then I have all of the front tube stuff, all bolts on. All that stuff is already painted. And another day moving forward.